Let me tell you something, friend. I've been around long enough to watch entire American towns be born, boom, go bust, and quietly disappear off the map while the rest of the country looked the other way. Steel towns, mining towns, mill towns, cotton towns, oil towns, railroad towns, each one built on a promise that the promise would last forever, and each one eventually left with empty streets, boarded windows, and houses selling for less than the price of a new refrigerator. 25 of them spread from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes. So subscribe, and let's start number 1, Cairo, Illinois. Down at the very southern tip of Illinois, where the Ohio River meets the Mississippi, sits a town that used to be one of the most important river ports in America. Cairo had banks, hotels, opera houses, and a downtown of such grandeur that Mark Twain wrote about it. Today, the downtown is a row of collapsed buildings with trees growing through the roofs. The population has fallen below 1,500, and whole residential streets stand completely empty. You can buy a house in Cairo for $5,000 to $15,000, and that is not a typo. Some of them are 2-story Victorian homes that would cost $500,000 in any functioning city. The catch is that the town's economy essentially collapsed in the 1960s and 70s after civil rights era violence and boycotts destroyed what remained of the local retail base, and it has never recovered. Services are thin, jobs are thinner, and the schools have been struggling for decades. But if you want an entire historic house for cash, Cairo is waiting. The town was founded in 1818 at one of the most strategically important locations in American geography, the confluence of the 2 greatest rivers in the middle of the continent. And for a while, it was expected to rival St. Louis and Memphis. During the Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant used it as a major staging base. The Gilded Age brought riverboat wealth and a downtown of red brick and cast iron. Then the river traffic faded, the railroads bypassed it, and the civil rights struggles of the late 1960s left scars the town never healed from. Walking through Cairo today is like walking through a photograph that somebody forgot to develop. Number 2, Centralia, Pennsylvania. Up in the anthracite coal country of eastern Pennsylvania, there was once a town called Centralia with about 1,000 residents, a main street, and a coal mining economy that had fed families for generations. Then in 1962, a fire started in a landfill on top of an abandoned coal mine, and the fire spread into the mine itself, and it has been burning underground ever since. 64 years and counting. The federal government bought out most of the residents in the 1980s, condemned the houses, and demolished almost everything. A handful of holdouts remain, and the streets are cracked open with smoke rising from the ground in places. There are no houses for sale in Centralia proper anymore, but in the surrounding towns of Ashland, Mount Carmel, and Shamokin, old coal patch homes sell for between $10,000 and $30,000 on a regular basis. Same region, same economy, different relationship with the fire underneath. The Centralia is the town that inspired the movie Silent Hill, and visitors who wander into the area are sometimes surprised to find themselves standing on a road that is literally warm under their feet, with sulfur fumes rising out of cracks in the asphalt. The coal seam that caught fire in 1962 is estimated to contain enough fuel to keep burning for another 250 years. The state condemned the last residents' properties in 2013, though a handful of holdouts won the legal right to stay for their lifetimes. Buying in the surrounding towns means buying into the same anthracite region that has been economically collapsing since the 1950s. But unlike Centralia itself, the ground under your feet will stay at a reasonable temperature. Number 3, Picher, Oklahoma. Sits over in the northeast corner of Oklahoma, sits a place that the federal government officially told to stop existing. Picher was a lead and zinc mining town, one of the largest producers of those metals in the world during the first half of the 20th century, and the mining left behind enormous piles of toxic waste called chat, and those piles poisoned the groundwater, the soil, and eventually the children. In 2006, the EPA offered buyouts to every remaining resident, and in 2009, the town was officially dissolved. But the surrounding Ottawa County still has small communities like Commerce, Quapaw, and Miami, where old mining-era houses sell for $15,000 to $30,000. Same bloodline, same toxic legacy, same incredible prices. The Picher story is one of the grimmest chapters in the history of American environmental regulation. For almost a century, the mines fed World War I, World War II, and the Cold War with essential metals, and the chat piles grew until they covered hundreds of acres and rose as tall as 3-story buildings. Children played on them. Schools sat in their shadow. The cancer rates eventually became impossible to ignore. Then in 2008, a tornado tore through what was left of the town and finished the job the EPA had started. Today, driving through the Picher area is a lesson in what industrial America is willing to do to itself, and the prices in the surrounding towns reflect the fact that some buyers simply will not cross the county line. Number 4, Thurmond, West Virginia. In the new River Gorge country of southern West Virginia, the old railroad town of Thurmond has a population of about 5 people, literally 5. It was once one of the busiest passenger stations on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway, handling more freight than Cincinnati, with hotels, a bank, and the roughest reputation in the Appalachian coal country. Then the coal business changed, the passenger trains stopped, and the town emptied out. The few remaining structures are now mostly owned by the National Park Service, but in the surrounding Fayette and Raleigh counties, old coal company houses sell for $10,000 to $25,000 on a weekly basis. The homes are real, the deeds are clean, and the new River Gorge National Park is one of the most spectacular outdoor destinations in the eastern United States. In its heyday, C.S. Thurmond's saloons and hotels hosted gambling, prostitution, and a murder rate high enough that a local preacher once called it the worst hellhole in America. The old Dunglen Hotel once hosted a poker game that lasted, according to legend, 14 straight years. Today, the only sounds in Thurmond are the river, the wind, and the occasional train rolling through on tracks that still carry freight. If you buy a house in the surrounding hills, you're buying into a landscape that has produced some of the finest American ballads and bleakest American stories in the country's history. Number 5, Braddock, Pennsylvania. Just east of Pittsburgh, along the Monongahela River, sits Braddock, a steel town that at its peak in the 1920s had 20,000 residents and one of the busiest commercial districts in the Pittsburgh region. Today, the population is under 1,800. More than 90% of the original buildings have been demolished, and the U.S. Steel Edgar Thomson Works is still operating as a strange island of industry in the middle of a mostly abandoned town. Houses in Braddock sell for $10,000 to $30,000 for habitable structures, and the town has become the focus of a small but genuine revival effort led by artists, urban homesteaders, and a famously tall former mayor who made national news for his unconventional politics. The catch, as always, is jobs, services, and the accumulated weight of a century of disinvestment. But the houses are brick, the foundations are solid, and the city of Pittsburgh is 15 minutes away. Braddock is the site of one of the bloodiest defeats in American colonial military history, when British General Edward Braddock was ambushed and killed by French and Indian forces in 1755, with a young George Washington serving as his aide. The town that grew up on the battlefield became home to Andrew Carnegie's first steel mill, opened in 1875, and that mill is still making steel today, more than 150 years later. Walking through what is left of Braddock, you can see the whole arc of industrial America: the first mill, the rise, the peak, the collapse, and the strange partial resurrection in about a 40-minute walk. Number 6, East St. Louis, Illinois. Across the Mississippi from St. Louis sits East St. Louis, a city that was once a thriving industrial center with meatpacking plants, railroad yards, and a population over 80,000. Today, the population is under 18,000. Entire neighborhoods have been leveled, and houses routinely sell for between $3,000 and $15,000. Some neighborhoods are genuinely dangerous. Others are simply empty. The state of Illinois has been trying for decades to reverse the city's decline with various development schemes, and some parts are slowly coming back. But the raw numbers, the sheer price per house, remain among the lowest in urban America. And for cash buyers willing to do their homework block by block, the opportunities are real. Number 7, Lobo, Texas. Out in the Chihuahuan Desert of West Texas, about 20 miles from the Mexican border and miles from anything else, sits the abandoned town of Lobo. Founded as a railroad and farming town in the early 20th century, Lobo's population peaked at around 300 in the 1950s before the water table dropped, the crops failed, and the town simply emptied out. A group of Germans bought the whole thing in 2001 for about $20,000. The core of the town is still owned by them and their successors, but outlying parcels, desert acreage with old farm buildings, occasionally come on the market for $5,000 to $15,000. The catch is absolute remoteness. The nearest grocery store is 40 miles away. The heat in July will humble you, and the water, when you can find it, is measured in drops. Number 8, Gary, Indiana. Once upon a time, Gary was the crown jewel of American steel, a city built from nothing by U.S. Steel in 1906, your home to nearly 200,000 residents in its 1960s peak, with a downtown of theaters, department stores, and civic buildings that rivaled any Midwestern city. Today, the population has fallen below 69,000. The mills are mostly closed or automated, and Gary has some of the cheapest housing stock in any American city. Homes regularly sell for $5,000 to $20,000, including two-story brick houses in neighborhoods where entire blocks have been abandoned. The city has launched auction programs where vacant properties go to buyers who commit to rehabilitation. It is not a vacation destination, but for a cash buyer with patience, tools, and a tolerance for urban decay, Gary offers genuine bargains within an hour of Chicago. Gary was the birthplace of the Jackson family, and the modest wooden house on Jackson Street, where Michael and his siblings grew up, still stands as a small museum, surrounded by blocks that have been mostly abandoned. The downtown theaters that hosted Duke Ellington and Count Basie sit empty, with trees growing through the stages. The City Methodist Church, one of the most architecturally stunning religious buildings in the Midwest, stands as a roofless ruin and has become a favorite location for photographers and filmmakers looking for American decay as backdrop. Number 9, Welch, West Virginia. Deep in the southern West Virginia coal fields in McDowell County sits the old coal county seat of Welch. Once called the heart of the billion-dollar coal field, it had a population over 6,000 in the 1950s. Today, it's under 1,500. And McDowell County as a whole has one of the lowest life expectancies and highest poverty rates in the United States. Houses in Welch, two-story wooden homes from the coal boom era, regularly sell for $7,000 to $20,000. Some need everything. Some just need somebody to show up and live in them. The surrounding hollers are dotted with abandoned coal camps and company towns that the 20th century simply walked away from. McDowell County produced more coal than any other county in American history, and at its peak, the population was nearly 100,000. Today, it's under 18,000 and falling. The schools have closed one after another. The hospitals have thinned out, and the grocery stores have consolidated into a handful of Dollar Generals that now anchor local commerce in a way that would have seemed impossible 50 years ago. Number 10, Mingo Junction, Ohio. On the Ohio River just south of Steubenville sits Mingo Junction, a former steel town of about 3,500 residents that famously served as the filming location for parts of the movie The Deer Hunter. The steel mill that was the town's entire economic reason for existing closed decades ago, and the town has been slowly hollowing out ever since. Houses here sell for $15,000 to $30,000, and the town still has a functioning downtown, a river, and the kind of working-class Appalachian character that is disappearing everywhere else. The catch is that the regional economy is thin. The young people have mostly left, and the winters are long and gray in the way that only Rust Belt winters can be. Number 11, Camden, Arkansas. Down in the timber and oil country of southern Arkansas, Camden was once a bustling town of 15,000 residents built on paper mills, lumber operations, and the Lockheed Martin missile plant that still operates on the edge of town. The population has fallen below 10,000. Several of the major mills have closed, and the residential neighborhoods, especially in the older parts of town, are full of houses selling for $10,000 to $30,000. The architecture is classic Southern, wooden bungalows and small cottages with wraparound porches, and the Wachita River is right there. The economy isn't booming, but it's not dead either. And the cost of living is among the lowest in any functional American town. Number 12, Selma, Alabama. The famous Alabama town where the civil rights marchers crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge in 1965 is today one of the most strikingly beautiful and deeply troubled small cities in the American South. Selma's population has fallen from nearly 30,000 at its peak to under 17,000. Large sections of the downtown are empty, and houses in many residential neighborhoods sell for $10,000 to $25,000. We are talking about two-story Victorian homes with original woodwork, small craftsman bungalows, and historic cottages that would be preserved as landmarks in any booming city. The catch is an economy that has never recovered from the collapse of cotton, the flight of industry, and the decades of disinvestment that followed. But the bones of Selma are extraordinary, and the opportunity is real. The Edmund Pettus Bridge itself is still there, named for a Confederate general and Ku Klux Klan Grand Dragon, whose legacy the nation has chosen to preserve as a monument to the people who crossed it in protest of everything he stood for. Walking across that bridge today, you can see the river below, the empty downtown beyond, and the slow, steady work of preservation and remembrance that a small but committed group of residents continues to do. Selma is not a cheap house. Selma is a piece of American history that happens to be priced like a used car. Before we keep going, a quick favor: subscribe to the channel to show me these videos actually help and serve a purpose. I'm not asking for your firstborn or your retirement account. Just tap the button. It costs nothing. It tells the algorithm to stop hiding these videos from people who need them. And it lets an old man keep doing what he does best, which is telling the truth about places the real estate industry would rather you never hear about. Now let's keep going. Number 13, Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, just east of Pittsburgh, sharing a border with the city and technically a separate borough, sits Wilkinsburg.
Once a prosperous streetcar suburb with beautiful brick and stone houses, Wilkinsburg has spent decades in decline, and today it has one of the highest concentrations of abandoned and tax-delinquent properties in the entire state of Pennsylvania. Three-story brick houses, some of them architectural gems from the late 1800s,
sell for $15,000 to $40,000. Many of them have been vacant for years and need major work. The borough has an active program to auction off tax-delinquent properties, and a slow revival has been creeping in from the Pittsburgh side. For the patient rehabber with cash, Wilkinsburg is one of the last great opportunities in the American Northeast. Number 14, Cleveland, Mississippi. Over in the Mississippi Delta, in Bolivar County, sits the small city of Cleveland, population around 11,000. Unlike some places on this list, Cleveland still has a functioning downtown, a college, and a middle class, but the surrounding Delta region, and particularly the older residential neighborhoods, contain some of the cheapest real estate in America. Small wooden houses in the Delta style sell for $10,000 to $25,000. And abandoned farms outside town occasionally come to market for even less. The Delta is flat, hot, and haunted, the birthplace of the blues, and the scene of some of the most profound poverty in the United States. If you want to understand America, buy a house in the Delta and live there for a year. Number 15, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Down in southeastern Arkansas, Pine Bluff was once a thriving city of over 57,000 residents, with a downtown that locals still remember as bustling and alive. Today, the population has fallen under 40,000. The downtown has become one of the most eerily empty in any American city its size, and houses in many neighborhoods sell for between $8,000 and $25,000.
The city has struggled with crime, corruption, and economic collapse for decades, but there are still good neighborhoods, good people, and genuine bargains for careful buyers. The architecture includes classic Southern Victorian, mid-century ranch, and wooden cottages that have been standing since before the First World War. Number 16, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. In the Allegheny Mountains of western Pennsylvania, Johnstown was once the third largest steel producer in the country, with a peak population of over 67,000. The city is most famous for the Great Flood of 1889, when a dam above the city collapsed and killed over 2,000 people. Today, the population has fallen below 18,000, and Johnstown has some of the cheapest urban housing in America. Large brick homes sell for $10,000 to $30,000. Smaller wooden houses occasionally list for $5,000 or less. The city is genuinely beautiful in its mountain setting. The architecture is magnificent, and the cost of living is lower than almost anywhere else in the eastern United States. Number 17, Weirton, West Virginia. In the northern panhandle of West Virginia, wedged between Ohio and Pennsylvania, sits the old steel town of Weirton. Home of Weirton Steel, once the largest employer in the state, the city peaked at over 27,000 residents before the steel industry collapsed and the mills closed or shrank dramatically. Today, the population is around 18,000, and houses in the older neighborhoods sell for $15,000 to $40,000. Solid brick homes, some with 3 or 4 bedrooms, in walkable neighborhoods with sidewalks and mature trees. The catch is the usual Rust Belt catch. Jobs are limited, the population is aging, and the winters are cold. But Pittsburgh is 40 minutes away, and the Ohio River Valley has a beauty that the real estate sites never quite capture. Number 18, Youngstown, Ohio. The name Youngstown has become shorthand for everything that happened to American manufacturing in the second half of the 20th century. Once a steel powerhouse with a peak population of nearly 170,000, Youngstown today has fallen below 60,000, and entire neighborhoods have been demolished or left to return to forest. Houses sell for prices that would shock a buyer in any other part of the country. saw 3-bedroom brick homes for $10,000 to $25,000, large wooden Victorians for $15,000 to $40,000. The city has a university, a minor league baseball team, and a genuinely good regional arts scene, but the raw numbers of abandoned properties remain staggering. For the cash buyer who does the neighborhood research carefully, Youngstown offers real opportunities. Bruce Springsteen wrote a song about Youngstown that describes in about 5 minutes the entire economic and emotional trajectory of the American Rust Belt. And the song plays in your head whether you want it to or not. When you walk the streets of the old steel neighborhoods, the city has launched one of the most aggressive urban deconstruction programs in the country, deliberately tearing down thousands of vacant houses to right-size itself to a smaller population, and the houses that remain are often the better ones, the survivors, the buildings that had enough structural integrity to deserve saving. Number 19, Chester, Pennsylvania. On the Delaware River south of Philadelphia, Chester is the oldest city in Pennsylvania, founded in 1682. Once a major shipbuilding and manufacturing center, the city's peak population of over 66,000 has fallen below 32,000, and the city has filed for bankruptcy. Houses in Chester routinely sell for $10,000 to $25,000, and some neighborhoods have entire blocks of boarded-up row houses that have been standing empty for decades. The catch is one of the highest crime rates in Pennsylvania. But the row houses are brick, the streets are walkable, and Philadelphia is 15 minutes up the interstate. Number 20, Flint, Michigan. The name Flint has become synonymous with the worst of American urban decay and institutional failure, thanks to the water crisis that poisoned thousands of residents with lead. The city peaked at just under 200,000 residents when General Motors was the lifeblood of the town. Today, it has fallen below 81,000, and vast sections of the city stand empty. Houses in Flint regularly sell for $3,000 to $15,000. Some neighborhoods have been demolished entirely. Others are holding on with stubborn working-class families who refuse to leave. The water infrastructure has been extensively repaired and tested, but the trust damage will last generations. For a certain kind of buyer, Flint is the ultimate cash opportunity. Flint was the birthplace of General Motors, and for most of the 20th century, it was one of the wealthiest working-class cities in America. With median incomes that outpaced most college towns, the collapse was fast, brutal, and thoroughly documented, most famously in the Michael Moore film Roger and Me. Whole neighborhoods that were built in the 1920s and 30s now stand with one house on a block, where there used to be 40. The city has a proud culture of survival, an excellent university branch campus, and a downtown that is slowly coming back. But the prices reflect a trauma that has not finished playing out, and they probably will for another generation. Number 21, Gary, West Virginia, different Gary, down in McDowell County. In the same coal country as Welch sits the old company town of Gary, West Virginia, named after Elbert H. Gary of U.S. Steel. Once a bustling coal town of over 3,000 residents, it has fallen under 900, and houses regularly sell for $5,000 to $15,000. Entire abandoned coal camps dot the surrounding hollers, some with standing houses and crumbling company stores. The catch is distance from everything, a shrinking population, and an economy that has been in continuous decline for 40 years. But the mountains are beautiful, the river is close, and the prices are lower than almost anywhere in the country. Number 22, Emporia, Virginia. On Interstate 95 in southeastern Virginia, near the North Carolina border, sits the small city of Emporia, a population under 5,500. Once a prosperous rail and textile town, Emporia has quietly declined for decades, and the older neighborhoods now contain houses that sell for $15,000 to $35,000. The catch is limited local employment, and the usual southern rural challenges. But the interstate access is excellent, the Virginia property taxes are reasonable, and the town has just enough functioning commerce to make daily life workable without a long drive to the nearest Walmart. Number 23, Benton Harbor, Michigan. On the eastern shore of Lake Michigan sits Benton Harbor, a small city that has struggled for decades in the shadow of the prosperous resort town of St. Joseph, directly across the river. Benton Harbor's population has fallen below 9,300. The Whirlpool Corporation headquarters remains nearby but no longer employs local workers in the way it once did, and houses in the city sell for between $10,000 and $25,000. Some of the homes are walking distance from the Lake Michigan shoreline, which is the kind of detail that makes the prices feel almost surreal. The catch is poverty, crime in certain neighborhoods, and a city government that has been under state oversight for years. But the lake is the lake, and lake frontage in that part of the country is never going to be cheap forever. Number 24, Cumberland, Maryland. In the Appalachian foothills of western Maryland sits Cumberland, an old industrial city of about 19,000 that was once a major rail and manufacturing hub. Today, the city has some of the cheapest housing in the mid-Atlantic region, with brick row houses and small Victorian cottages selling for $15,000 to $40,000. The downtown has been partially preserved with historic designation. There are parks and mountain trails in every direction, and the Potomac River runs through the center of town. The regional economy is slow but not dead, and the drive to Pittsburgh, Washington, or Baltimore is manageable for occasional city visits. For a small American city with genuine bones, Cumberland is one of the great overlooked bargains. The city was once called the Queen City of the Alleghenies, and it served as the starting point of the National Road, the first federally funded highway in American history. The C&O Canal came here, the B&O Railroad came here. And for a brief moment in the 19th century, Cumberland is one of the largest cities in Maryland. Today, walking the downtown, you can still see the old train station, the Victorian storefronts, and the brick mills that remind you of what the town used to be. And number 25, the last one, Scranton, Arkansas. Not the Scranton you're thinking of. Scranton, Arkansas is a tiny town in Logan County with a population under 200. Once built on coal mining and railroad traffic, and today mostly a collection of small houses scattered along a few rural roads. Houses here, when they come to market, sell for $5,000 to $20,000, sometimes less if the heirs are motivated. The catch is everything you would expect. No jobs, no services, no entertainment beyond what you bring with you. But the Arkansas River Valley is right there. The Ozark National Forest is close. And for a buyer who just wants to own a house outright and disappear from the rush of the modern world, Scranton, Arkansas is about as affordable as it gets in the continental United States. So there you have it. 25 places across this enormous, contradictory, wounded, and still beautiful country where the old American promise of owning your own home is still within reach of an ordinary person with ordinary savings. Now, before you cash in your retirement and head for Cairo or Youngstown with a cashier's check and a dream, let me give you the advice nobody in the real estate business is going to give you for free. First, never ever buy a cheap house site unseen. Photos lie, listings lie. And realtors who specialize in distressed properties lie with the confidence of a used car salesman working on commission. Drive the house, walk the block, come back on a Saturday night and see who's hanging around. Second, always get a full inspection from a licensed local inspector, and always check for lead paint, asbestos, outdated electrical, deteriorated plumbing, and structural foundation issues. A $10,000 house can easily become a $70,000 house after you make it habitable. Third, always do a title search through a local title company. Many of these cheap properties have liens, unpaid taxes, code violations, and ownership disputes that will absolutely ruin you if you close without checking. Fourth, check the neighborhood carefully. Some blocks in these cities are stable and safe. Others are not. The difference between a $12,000 gem and a $12,000 nightmare can be a single street. Fifth, understand the insurance situation. Many cheap urban houses in Rust Belt and southern decline cities are nearly impossible to insure without a full rehabilitation first, and even then, the premiums can surprise you. Sixth, understand the tax sale and code enforcement situation in the jurisdiction. Some cities like Detroit and Baltimore have aggressive programs to either help or punish owners of distressed properties. Know which side of that machine you are on before you buy. And finally, talk to the neighbors. The neighbors know everything. They know which houses flooded, which ones burned, which ones were meth labs, and which ones are just waiting for somebody with a little cash and a little heart to bring them back to life. The truth is that cheap houses in America still exist, and most of them are not scams, at least not exactly. They're just houses in places where the American economy moved on 50 or 60 or 70 years ago. The mills closed, the mines shut, the railroads were abandoned, the young people went to Atlanta and Denver and Dallas, and what's left behind is this landscape of still standing houses in still breathing towns that the rest of the country has decided to forget about. If you buy into one of these places, you're not stealing anything. You are betting on a town that the markets gave up on. Oh, and you are placing that bet with your own two hands instead of signing a 30-year mortgage to own something you'll never actually own. Some of these towns will come back, some will not. But every one of them is real, and every one of them is somebody's home, and every one of them is cheaper than anyone in the national housing conversation wants to admit. The newspapers keep writing about the housing crisis as if the whole country were priced out of homeownership forever. The truth is more complicated and, in its own grim way, more hopeful. The houses exist. They are standing on their foundations, waiting. Somebody built every one of them by hand 100 years ago, 120 years ago, with materials that were cut from American forests and fired in American brickyards and nailed together by American hands that are long since in the ground. Those houses are still there. They just need somebody to want them. I'm a grandpa, and grandpas worry. Check the foundation, check the title, check the water, and never trust a listing that says as is without giving you permission to walk through it first. Take care of yourselves.